Hey guys, my name is Crimsy, and this is an art tutorial on the 10 things every artist should know. Now, starting off with number 1, a drawing shouldn't take 10 minutes. It should actually take as long as you want it to take. But if you're working on a commission, then it shouldn't take longer than a few weeks or a month, because that would be too long. But taking your time is essential when you're making a drawing. The more time you put into something, the better it's going to look, usually. You don't want to spend 10 minutes on a drawing and then have it look like crap, but then you're going to give it to someone who has paid their time and money into that drawing. Now, number 2, always flip your canvas. A lot of the times I see people make drawings, but then they don't flip their canvas and then one side looks off than the other. So I highly suggest setting a keybind for whatever program that you're using so that you can flip your canvas and then see the mistakes that you make on the other side. Now, number 3, when you're drawing something, you should really know about the types of light, how there's pin light and ambient light. Pin light is the light that is the harshest, or where the main light source is coming from. So on the sphere, it would be at the very top. But then ambient light is light that bounces off of objects. When you add ambient light to something, it actually makes a sphere look more like a sphere. Or metal would be a very good example of this. Metal has a lot of ambient light bouncing off of it, especially on armor. So it would be good to apply that to a sphere, and this is not a good idea of a sphere. Just because it's very plain, it doesn't have any ambient light on the bottom, and it just wasn't really blended that good. Number 4, the eye farthest from the camera should not be small, unless it's a super exaggerated perspective. With this one, the character is supposed to be facing the side on an angle a bit, so the eyes should be of equal size, but sometimes the eye on the side that's supposed to be farther away can be a little more thin horizontally, not vertically, which is why people think that they should make an eye smaller on the other side but make it smaller vertically, and that's not really a good idea because it tends to make your anime art look a little bit more fake and not as well put together. And this is a very common mistake that I see people make when they draw anime art. Now let's move on to number 5. Anime boobs should not be round on a loose shirt. This makes the character look more fake, and lots of people like the look of breasts and boobs, but personally, if you want to make your art look like anime but a little bit more realistic, then I'd suggest adding folds and actually thinking about the clothing as if it has gravity attached to it, or that gravity affects it. Next is do not overuse the blur tool. It's for gradients and blush, like on this character, she has blush and I use the blur tool for that, and slight blurring to some lines, preferably shadows. So what I did here was, I usually use the blur tool on the shadow lines underneath the hairline, but I didn't for this one just because I wanted to look more comic-y. But other than that, I'd highly suggest just blurring it a tiny bit if you want your shadows to look more soft. I see a lot of people, they'll be drawing clothing and stuff, but their lines look so weird, or their blurring is just, there's too much blurring in it, and the clothing looks way too soft than it should be. Some clothing have harsh lines, and that's where the shadows come from. Now next off is never shade with black. I see people do this a lot whenever they draw a character or clothing. They want that really harsh black shading, and it's usually very close to, say, this area on the collar. Say they try to fill in it with black, but that would not look good in this image. Hence, you have to think about your lighting and how harsh it is. Sometimes when you have a really dark lighting, then it's good to add black, but other than that, draw with a darker color for your shading, but not black. Like almost black, but not entirely black. Next off, for number 8, you can draw eyebrows over the hair. This is only for anime here, but some realistic animes have an exception to that. So what I mean by this is, this character is very comic-y, so her eyebrows are over top of your hair. This is to show her expression more, and usually in animes, that will happen. For illustrations and other styles, you can put the eyebrows underneath the hair. And that looks very good as well, but just make sure that you know what style that you're using and how realistic you're going for. Now, number 9, thicken your lines. The reason why you should thicken your lines is that it gives emphasis to your line work and your character as well. So say you have hair, like in this demonstration right here, I thickened the lines on the corners of the hair just so that it gives it a little bit more body compared to the other side, which is very plain and just simple line art. And finally, color your line art. Please do this, unless you have a certain style that's just black and white. Other than that, coloring your line work can really change your character and the way it looks. Hence why people color the skin a very reddish tone so that it matches with the pinkness of their skin, or the fact that you can color red for this bow tie right here and how it blends in with it. Now, you have to find certain colors that mix well with what you're working with. So, for instance, this white shirt, it has white, it has a very purplish shading, so then I'd add a purplish line art so that it matches with the shading. Sometimes you can color the outside white or the outside line art white in certain areas just so it gives it a more of a realistic look, but for this character I specifically used just straight line art. And that is it. So thank you very much for watching this video, and you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll see you guys in the next video.